functionality. I've never used this, so
you're ready to go and you're live.
Yay! Look at that. Throw me right in.
Throw you right in. So this is day 14, or Evolved Conversations 14, with the incredible Jackie Knechtel. Did I pronounce that right?
Everyone says it differently. I honestly don't know how to say it, so I say Knechtel. But I will accept all variations.
All variations. And if we're talking synchronicities and just alignment, what happens and what is possible, our relationship, or Wonder and Wonders relationship, truly defines that. Like, we were looking for incredible speakers, ones that at the diamond in the rough, and Jackie was one of them, and we just couldn't connect with her because she travels around the world and speaks at incredible events and does amazing things. So to be able to track her down was just literally like a needle in a haystack. We arrived in Bali, and there was an amazing unconventional life happening. Jules Schroeder, who's coming down to Evolve, but is coming virtually, and who was there? Jackie. And so we're like, can we set up a Zoom call? And she's like, no, I'm 400 meters around the corner. So synchronicity and alignment. Sarah was there, and Sarah's very spiritual and very enlightened. I was still going through that, starting the journey. For 4 hours, I think I've still got a headache from that day on how much wisdom you dropped on that day and enlightenment around this whole flow and consciousness. So, Jackie, I'll never forget that day in Bali. I think I can still remember what we ate, but and then that just happened again in LA. It's happened when we went to prison to mentor inmates. So you are just an incredible human. You are a super connector, and you just help humans unlock their potential. I can't wait to dive into the course, but maybe just shed a bit of light on Flow Consciousness Institute and the work that you've done, whether it's NASA or Disney films, like you name it. I can't wait to roll off a few things.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's so great to be here, and I love how we connected. It's such a perfect example of what it's like to live in flow. And so I co-founded the Flow Consciousness Institute, and we do research and trainings both online and in person all around the world, really teaching people how to unlock their limitless potential. And so, yeah, it's just been a wild journey of sharing this work. You've got a little friend who wants to come say hi.
Oh, cool. Can you go and see Lola, please? Sorry, 3 munchkins trying to manage this and now self-isolation.
The challenge of every parent right now is how to do work at home without their little ones coming into the mix. But
just embrace it. Yeah. So sorry about that.
No, don't be sorry. I love kids. So yeah, we've been sharing these trainings all over the world for the last 4.5 years, and excited to be expanding the work. And we have a call, I think, tomorrow with one of our students in Brazil who wants to head up the Latin American division and really get this work out into other countries. So we're looking to build a train the trainer program and have it translated into different languages, so that way we can really scale it and bring it to a broader audience.
That's amazing. And what do you find when people have gone through, like, flow and consciousness, such buzzwords in all industries right now? And I literally had a call 2 days ago around education with David Bott around positive education. And one of his examples is around how to survive in this time of self-isolation. He's like, find your flow. And he kind of defined as, like, is it Stephen Kotler? That talks about more around, like, it's when you're in flow, you're jumping over buildings, you're surfing big waves. But then David really said, well, you can find flow in so many other things. And for me, that's where I found it. It was like cooking and just focusing on one task. What are your students, or what do people feel when they come out the other side around this flow and then consciousness? Because two of them linked together are really powerful. I feel like consciousness, I've done the journey or doing the journey and the work, but flow, I'm still starting to try and understand. So
yeah, so most people have had an experience of flow like you're describing, not necessarily surfing big waves or jumping off of buildings, but that sense where you're in the zone and you get lost in the moment and time seems to stand still, and you're in this heightened focus, expanded creativity, things like that. And so they've had a taste of that's a flow state. And when we talk about flow consciousness, there's naturally some overlap, because You're going to experience that a lot in flow consciousness as well. But flow states by their very nature are temporary. So whereas flow consciousness is really a way of being, and you're doing a lot of deep inner work to deprogram and reprogram all of the limiting beliefs, emotional patterns, trauma imprints, the things that keep people stuck in unnecessary struggle and suffering. And so by doing that, they're able to tap into their potential and really start to become more limitless and to have new perspectives and outlooks on the way that they see life and really take ownership of how they're creating it. And so as a result, they end up having more synchronicities, like you were just describing, the sense that life is conspiring in your favor, that the resources that you need to thrive come to you effortlessly. You have exponential leaps in your growth and your success. You're really just developing a relationship with yourself where you drop into radical trust and surrendering to life. I think this is such a big thing right now. People are realizing like we really don't have control over much of anything at all. And so the more we can surrender into that, the more we can relax into that, the more free we are. So radical trust and ultimately this sense of equanimity. So we drop into this place of profound calm and peace, no matter what's happening around us, because we can't control what's going on in the world, but what we can is how we respond to it in our internal state. So flow consciousness is really the art and science of living in that way of being.
No, that's how Lola
Radical surrender. There you go. Hi, cutie.
This is Lola. This is Jackie. She's from Flow Consciousness Institute. Have a listen if you want, but I just got to finish this interview.
Hi, sweetheart.
Thanks. She is my flow princess. She's the incredible human that keeps my two little tornadoes in check. So
yeah.
that's awesome.
Children are so naturally in flow. We can learn so much just by witnessing them, because they're tuned into in every moment what they're excited to be doing. They're really just honoring what they want to be doing, not thinking about what they have to do, what they should be doing, and getting all in their heads. So children are really the closest thing to living in flow, and we could learn so much from them. But then what happens is it gets conditioned out of them. They go to school and you have to learn to color in the lines, and creativity is squashed, and you start just, becoming this robot in many ways, just following the prescribed life and how you should be doing things. So really, like, kids are so beautiful to witness in their flow.
It's such a great follow-up again from like David's conversation. So David's positive education at one of Australia's leading grammars, and they literally created an institute around positive psychology, and their whole school framework was around this. And he's kind of brought in that curiosity and what's the future of education. We had this call around, this is kind of the wake-up call education needed around, like, students are firing on all cylinders, being able to do things virtually, but they're learning that they can't keep attention with virtual calls nowhere near as much as physical calls. So they can actually cram more into a day to give them times to let these kids go and do Khan Academy or other academies on their outside stuff. So that's really interesting around the flow kids. I might as well just introduce the last one that's just popped in. This is Paxton. So then you've got all three, but it's incredible the surrender which we're literally being forced to do right now, because I've got my kids for 7 days before they go back to their mums, and you're forced to surrender and be in their flow. And as you said, seeing what they get excited about, and they just literally go down rabbit holes in color for like an hour and a half. How can we start to embrace that as adults? And what are we learning right now in this time of crisis or change, or the thing that was meant to happen, which what can we learn? How can we start to embrace this flow and bring it into our lives?
Yeah, I think what we're learning is going to be so individual. I think on a collective, there's so many things that we're learning as a society. Like this is exposing all the fractures in all of these systems that we've just been kind of going through the motions with our education system, the political system, healthcare. All of it has, we know has been broken for years, but we don't have necessarily another solution. So we've just been kind of plodding along in it. But now, everything is breaking down and it's exposing all of the weaknesses. So there's a tremendous opportunity to really sit with and look at these ways that we've been habitually doing things, both as a society and as ourselves as individuals. So, looking at our habitual ways of eating and shopping and consuming and taking in media, and how we're just ingrained to go, do all the time in this like hyper masculine way that's led to so much burnout and led to so much chronic stress, disease, illness, all of these things, because the way we're living is not sustainable. So I think there's so much possibility in these times if people are willing to reflect. And, there's a whole spectrum of where people are at right now. And, just seeing the first week, everyone was in extreme reactivity and panic and hoarding toilet paper and just like in these fear reactive behaviors. And now things seem to have settled down a bit, at least where I am. In Los Angeles, people are getting into a rhythm and seeing like where there's a distinct difference between wants and needs, right? It's like where we would just go out to the grocery store and get something because we want it. Now it's like, oh, well, do I actually really need that? Do I need to be eating sugar right now? Do I need to be, whatever it is that these cravings that are coming up, the ways that we habitually numb out or distract ourselves, we're really being given this huge invitation to pause and to stop and breathe. There's still people that are pushing this idea that, your quarantine can be the most productive you've ever been. And that's great.
I'm in the trap at the moment. Is like, yeah, you're feeling like, oh, I've got 4 weeks to not only surrender, but like, as I said before, the cool is like social media has just turned into this online course frenzy. And something Cameron Herald actually put up before is like a lot of it's coming through free. There's just so much free stuff coming through that it's so easy to clog your day of 8 hours worth of learning or calls or webinars. What's your thought on that? And because there are a lot of people that are going, jeepers, I just need to do now. There's a few that are surrendering and pausing. So this is probably a learning for me, actually, is like how to embrace that pause and know that the world's not going to stop, even though everyone else is pivoting and moving and shaking. Yeah, what's your thoughts on
Again,
that?
I think it's highly individualized. So it's really tuning in and noticing your own habitual behaviors. So what's true for me isn't going to be true for you or anyone else. So if you habitually weren't doing enough and now like there's all this time, then maybe you can take on some new projects. If you were habitually doing so much and going so much that you were in adrenal fatigue and burnout, like now is a really good time to slow down. If you have that luxury, there's people who are losing businesses and losing clients and stuff. So of course there's going to be the need to step up and pivot where you can. But, for the people who are just isolated at home, they're safe, they have what they need to thrive. You don't necessarily need to do anything. It's really like tuning in always. The path of highest flow is finding out what's most exciting to you and most inspiring to you in every moment. And so not waking up thinking, oh, I should be doing this, or I have to do this because all my peers are doing this, all of my colleagues are doing this. If I don't, I'm going to fall behind, like all of the stories that come. That's not why you should be doing something. So if you wake up and you're genuinely inspired to do one of these courses, great. If you're doing it because you feel like you need to learn something because you don't know enough, it's a different story, and that's something for you to look at. So it's really always tuning in, like, what is driving this? What's behind this? Is the desire to do this rooted in my inspiration? Or is this because I feel like I have to, I should, or like if I don't, I'm going to fall behind, or comparing myself to everyone else, and really just noticing what's driving that.
And how do you bring that deep sense of grounding? Like, as you said, like naturally this time is giving you an opportunity to totally ground, and we both are wanderers at heart, and love to travel and love to connect with people live and be immersed in new communities and travel around the world. You've obviously got the tools and understanding how to ground every day, because we can still, as you said, find the wonder and wonder when we're in a fixed location. How do we, how do we embrace that with a grounding stature, not to be pulled left, right, and center? Because that's what I'm feeling right now, is that I wouldn't be deeply grounded. I'm kind of pulled left, right, and center, trying to work things out. How would we ground and still have that wonder and wonder with us?
Yeah, I think, so much of it is mindset. Mindset is really everything, and your perception right now is key. So you could be focused on all of the ways that you're losing your freedom, you're like all of these things are being taken away from you, and that's going to create more stress.
2 seconds, sorry.
Oh, yeah. So I think a perfect example you're modeling right now is just being adaptable. And that's something that I really took away from traveling all over the world. I traveled to over 70 countries, and really had to learn to become adaptable to any situation, and things were rapidly changing all the time. So I think that wander really developed this tremendous capacity for me to surrender to situations beyond my control, because especially when you're traveling in developing nations, there's things that don't work the way that they do in the Western world, and things that we're used to, and really having to navigate different situations all the time. So I think I'm very well versed in that, but also it's really just learning to take the essence of the thing that you love. So for us, it's really wandering, and what is that? What do you love about wandering? What does that do for you?
Yeah, well, it ignites curiosity, like the opportunity to have new conversations, meet new people, try new food. Like there's that whole aspect of new, and it like sparks other parts of the brain. It's like, wow, that's new. I don't feel like.
So I'm just going to draw that out for a bit, because it's like finding the essence, and for everyone else too, like whatever your thing is, and whatever the thing is that you feel like is being taken away, right? Because where I am every day, there's new restrictions. You can't go to the beach, you can't go to the trails, you can't, the world keeps getting smaller, but how do you still have access in whatever even if it's just the 4 walls, the room that you're in, how can you cultivate that same essential quality? So the same curiosity, the same inspiration, the novelty that you get from meeting new people, from exploring new cultures. So for me, it's like, I will reach out to people in communities that I belong to that I've never met, and say, hey, do you want to have a conversation? And so I'll still get to meet new people, and that will feed my soul in the way that I love. Still being able to show up and connect people as a connector, I get the greatest joy from being able to help people find the resource that they need. So I can do that from my room. And how can I take the curiosity and wonder and novelty of travel into my life? Well, I can listen to music from other cultures. I can try new recipes. There's so many different ways that we just have to be open to the possibility. But when we're stuck in like what we're losing and what's being taken away, that really narrows the field of opportunity and possibility. So getting curious about what is the essence of the thing that you miss the most, and how can you create that regardless of your circumstances? So, that way you can be as joyful and expansive regardless if you can leave your house or not, right?
That's powerful. And as you said, just keep going back to the essence. And as I said to Jackie, I'm so jealous she's got a green juice. I'm like, that can't physically come through this call right now. I can't get to the supermarket. So but let's dive into like the future, and like we do talk about the future a lot, and the communities that you're part of as well can kind of forward project 5 or 10 years. Is like, one, what is the learning that we're having right now as humanity? And two, what is the future of belonging and connection? Because I think this is a new normal. It will not go back to what was before. Like, they might go similar, but this is the new normal. So yeah, those two questions.
Well, I would say this is the new normal.
Oh no, but as in there is a new normal, I should say.
Right. Yeah. I don't know that this is going to be the new normal, but I don't know that things will never be the same. Let's just say that. And I think that's a good thing, because
so what are people learning right now? You reckon the people in your communities, which are very enlightened and conscious, but what's humanity learning right now? What are you learning?
Yeah, I feel like we're learning that we've been living in a really unsustainable way that's really been not caring for first ourselves. Really, the amount of suicide, depression, drug addiction, just all of these people that are burnt out, overworked. That's got to change. Also, not looking after others, and really not looking after our planet. And we're really starting to see the impact. And so here in Los Angeles, I woke up to a message that said LA now has the cleanest air in the world right now, which I don't know if that seems...
It's a great headline. I'd buy into that. I'd read the article too. Totally.
Yeah, maybe it's just clickbait, but it seems a little ridiculous that in the whole world. But I've seen some pictures of the skyline change over the last couple of weeks, and also in Nepal, and just seeing the smog clear, and the sky it's never been this blue, and hearing the birds so loudly and cheerfully. My friend, she lives, I don't know what part of LA she's in, but she's had all of these goats show up on her property, like dozens of them out of nowhere. But so it's like animals that felt like they weren't safe to come out because of the humans. And so we're starting to see shifts in our natural world as a result of this. In the things that we said, oh, we could never imagine what it would be like to fully stop air travel and car traffic and things like that, because we couldn't do that. Well, now we're forced to do that, and we're seeing the impact. And so these things were all hypothetical before, but now we're seeing it change right in front of our eyes. So just seeing how the travel industry wasn't sustainable, all of these different industries were not operating in a sustainable place, manufacturing, and just the consumption of goods that we have as a society, and buying crap that we don't need. And so I think one of the big learnings is how do we build these new systems in a more sustainable way, in a way that is focused on humanity thriving. Like the education system, we know has been so broken, but it's, again, there's not a great solution. In certain places, if you're lucky, there's Waldorf schools or Montessori schools or Steiner schools and eco schools and things, but they're so few and far between. But the schools of the future are going to have curriculum that's focused on emotional intelligence. Shall I keep talking, or do you want me to wait?
Yeah, keep going. All good. Oh man.
Yeah. So
solo night, crushing it.
Just starting to see how children shouldn't be in a room in a chair for 8 hours under fluorescent lights all day, just regurgitating information that may or may not be relevant or interesting to them. So how do we rebuild the education system? How do we rebuild, it's like universal basic income. I think they just announced that in Spain. So here's these things that we said, oh, but that's not possible, or that's not sustainable, and that's not ever going to happen. It's all starting to shift, and we're starting to see like things are never going to be the same. And that's great, because the old way is what got us here. And so my sense is that this is going to take some time, because it takes time for people to have a behavior change, right? So if after this quarantine period, we all just get back out into life as we know it and just start going out and buying all the things again and getting right back into hustle and grind mode, we're not going to change. We're just going to go right back into the same situation we were in. So my sense is this is going to be a bit more drawn out, and that's great in a way, because then we can start to really examine and change our behavior in a way that will be more beneficial for all of humanity and for our earth.
Well, it's as you said, the being able to draw it out, like whether it's the universe or whatever, whoever you believe in, but being able to draw this out, because when you just brought up that whole behavioral change thing, is like the things that have happened in the past are being quite sudden. Like the financial crisis, yes, it was drawn out a bit, but it was isolated to finance, sort of, whereas this is literally everyone is affected. No one is not affected in what we're going through. Right? To be able to draw it out past 1 to 2 months, that behavioral change and the mindset and the thinking of like, okay, well, it's given me enough time to think about things and what lights me up and my behavior, and so that makes total sense.
So many people have said to me that their job, they're realizing now they're working from home and they've been commuting to an office, and that doesn't resonate anymore. It's like, why have I been doing this when I can get the same amount of work done in 4 hours at home and not have to commute and pollute the air and sit in traffic and waste all that time, when I could do the same thing? But also, is this really what I want to be doing? Like, we're in a moment now where people are actually having to face mortality, possibly for the first time, and really like think about that. And death is not something that we like to talk about. It's something that's just kind of taboo and brushed under the rug. But really, my brother's death was a huge awakening for me, and really reflecting on my own mortality and really working with my fear of death was what set me free to truly live. And so to realize, like, I'm not going to spend my precious time on this earth doing anything that isn't what I want to be doing, whether it's being in a relationship that I'm not happy in, doing work that's not fulfilling. I'm just not willing to do that.
Yeah.
And so really, like, having that experience of reflecting on death and dying was what allowed me to really live full out. And so I'm seeing that in some of the friends who have been just in, good jobs that pay well, and they don't hate them, but they're like, is this what I really want to be doing? And so now is an opportunity to really ask, like, what do I want to be doing with my life? And, it's a new time, because the whole financial model might be collapsing. So it's like, if you truly were not worried about money, what would you be doing with your life and your time? What is the thing that gives you so much joy and fulfillment? And how can you be doing more of that? Whether it's, you're getting paid to do it or not, how do you spend your days doing the things that you love?
Yeah, wow, that's geez, I'll be doing exactly what I'm doing right now. So yes, this is and that's been a massive mindset shift for me. It's all about like past travel businesses, and it's part of me. It's 15 years of taking people to another location. That's my business. And that literally got turned off overnight. And it was all about, success, and this new redefined success and the redefined abundance, being around these guys and not being stressed and uptight about them being on a, it's interesting. So working around a business model next around how you can still be financially abundant throughout this new normal, or sorry, the new side of what we're learning right now. So
it's an evolutionary time, and so I think people are looking for certainty, and you can never have that because there's no such thing. So it's like being adaptable is really what's most important. And because things are changing day to day, even hour to hour in this moment. So each time like you're pivoting, it could all change tomorrow. So it's really,
yeah, I absolutely love that. Sorry to interrupt that. Like, we can't be certain. Like, yeah, certainty and uncertainty. Uncertainty is always there, isn't it? Like, as soon as you get certain, like, that's when we get comfortable and stop growing and stop evolving.
well, imagine 4 weeks ago, we were all like living our normal lives, right? No one could have ever imagined that the whole world would be locked in their rooms right now. And so it's like we all kind of had this illusion of certainty that we would get up and go to work and do the things that we normally do that day. And now that's all changed overnight because you can't control anything in life. So really, the more you can develop your relationship to be comfortable with uncertainty and do that inner work to get to that place, knowing that nothing is ever certain, then you get to thrive in these times. But otherwise, you're just all of your deep wounding around safety and security and all of that lack and scarcity, all of those things are being triggered right now. And so it's really important to use what's showing up as a thing to move and process and heal these different wounds that are asking to be looked at.
Well, as you said, doing the inner work, and some people, when I'm saying I've done, do you want to come have a chat, buddy? Come sit on my knee then. Doing the inner work, some people are like, oh, that's a bit woo-woo and far, but I'm like, I finally embraced it. Like, part of me was keeping that to myself, but now I'm like, you know what, I've done tarot cards, I've done astrology sessions, and you know what, like, believe it or not, it's like getting a deeper understanding of self, and that can come from anywhere. Like, I still read the Bible. I'm like, so
yeah, it doesn't matter where you're getting the inspiration. It's really that you're just looking within. And so if you're getting that from cards, pulling cards, or like you said, the Bible, or whatever it is, it's really what is the thing that's going to support you in actually looking at and being with those things. Like, what am I afraid of now? What is being asked of me? And really looking at those things and doing that work and getting support if you can. If you have the finances and the freedom to get a coach or a therapist or someone to guide you and support you on that journey, hey bud. Or just reading lots of books and doing, there's so much information on the internet right now, and so, like you said, so many things that are being offered. People are being so generous with their time and their trainings, and there's so much out there now. There's no better time than to really start to do those things to make the shift. Oh my gosh, I'm so distracted because you're so cute. Look how cute you are.
Paxton, he's just turning 3 in a couple of months' time. Yeah, his 2 older siblings, he's learning very fast. But sorry for the distraction, audience.
No, don't be sorry.
Jackie, where would you start with the inner work with people? And also, if you're in a relationship, whether it's personal, business, that you feel the other person isn't doing the inner work or doesn't understand the full spectrum, holistic approach, how do you? Yeah, that's a double-ended question. It's like, how do you start the inner work and diving in, and then how do you deal with people that aren't doing the inner work, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. And again, everyone's path is going to be different. There's so many paths to the same truth. So it's really like tuning in and seeing what resonates with you, whether it's a book, a teacher, a training, a coach, a healer, whatever. Really following, like, who am I drawn to? What am I curious about? And, just starting to do some meditation or breath work or these different practices. The more you're just willing to be with yourself and ask some questions about what's coming up for you. I mean, it really helps to have frameworks and tools and support. But there's so many paths out there. So it's really just following the breadcrumbs of where you're drawn. And then for people who aren't doing the work, that are in your sphere, whether it's like your interpersonal relationships, your family, there's always going to be people who aren't willing or don't have access, or, whatever reason, they're not doing the work themselves. And you may find that it's more difficult to connect with them. And I guess it's harder if you're in a romantic relationship with someone who you're changing and growing so much. At some point, you may not be on the same page anymore. You may not resonate anymore because you're growing and they're staying the same. And at some point, you may have to make a choice. Is this the type of relationship that I want to be in? And the same thing with friendships and, family, is a different story because they're born into it.
Man, we could go through a deep rabbit hole because, I was at my deepest, lowest, darkest point probably 2.5 years ago and didn't have any spirituality or any something being bigger than self. It was just all about me and being selfish and me. And to start that journey. But then as soon as I started that journey, I felt very isolated and in regards to taking that path. So as you said, it's trying to find the people that are around you that can support, and then naturally things will gravitate together and you'll magnetize the people that are meant to be in your life to help you with that journey. But then after 2 years, everything started to open up and come back. Obviously went through separation and divorce. Me and Sarah are now together and we're both evolving at the same time, which is amazing. But the people around me are kind of now starting to ask the question, and this is why I'm excited about this moment in time that we'll look back, is like my relationships with my parents have never been as strong as they've been, and like the openness and willingness to kind of share and collaborate and ask questions about my childhood. And as you said, the whole trauma thing, and I'm just looking at your page over there as well, so many of us just wrap up our childhood traumas, don't even know that they still exist. And this is a big path I'm going through right now, there was some childhood trauma that I'd literally I actually had a conversation with Mum that I was taught to kind of wrap it up by my counselor way back, and now it's about unpacking that all again. So don't be shy to ask yourself the question, because my memory is shit. So
and as you do your inner work, people around you will naturally shift because you're not coming from reactivity. So the people that you used to be triggered by, you're not going to be reacting to them, and there's not going to be that same friction. So you'll notice that just by doing your work, the relationships around you will shift. And oftentimes people will be curious, like, hey man, what are you doing? Like, I notice you're way more chill than you used to be, or you just seem really peaceful. Like, how'd you get there? And so really allowing people to come to you when they're ready. And some people may never be ready. And, so really just knowing that everyone's on their own journey, and, some people may never get there, and that's okay. And loving them where they are. And, you can model for people and you can inspire people, but you can't make people do what they don't want to do. So just really loving them where they are, meeting them where they are. But then also you always have the choice of who you're in relationship with. So if you're the one who's growing and changing and other people aren't, and it doesn't feel good and it doesn't feel serving, or it's dishonoring or abusive in any way, you don't have to take that. So but it's you just find you'll naturally come into resonance with people who are also doing that work and are on that path too. And so typically your relationships will change, the types of people that you hang out with, the activities you do. And as that all changes, it's so important to have a community that's on the same wavelength and really be surrounded by those people. Because we find, like in our flow mastery trainings, people are taking on these really expansive mindsets, and they're liberating themselves from all of these things that were holding them back. And yet there's people in their lives that want to pull them back down, because like misery loves company. And so there's this thing where, you know, tall poppy syndrome, I think you guys call it over there. And people want to cut you back down and like have the relationship that you used to have, whether it was like commiserating and complaining and gossiping or whatever it is. But as you're growing and shifting into a more heart-centered, expansive person, and that doesn't feel true for you anymore, it's really important to have people that are on that same wavelength.
Sorry. Hey, Paxi, I'm still talking, buddy. Okay, good boy. Yeah, you can. Go get some for Pax. I'm in flow state right now, just parenting, flow parenting.
You have to roll with it. We did a workshop the other day, and legitimately 30 seconds before the call, the power went out. And I was like, okay, well, doing this in the dark now. So, you know, luckily my laptop was charged, and it was just the power in the room that I was in, and I didn't have time to fix it, but it's, you just have to roll with it.
You just roll with the times, and old tense Steve would have been so stressed, and my heart would have been going through the roof now. But I'm like, hey, right now in the next 4 weeks is Nigel Latta, which is like a child psychologist expert in New Zealand. He's like, now is not a time to completely give up sugar. Now is not a time to try and wind back the TV with kids, because it's just like for the next 4 or 5 weeks, it's all about survival and being in the life raft to be able to thrive when we get out the other side. So I really, really appreciate just your friendship, your wisdom, what you're doing in the world, the super connector you are. I know I'm a connector in the world, but man, you're just a next level in regards to just being of service to your community and people and connecting people. It's just magical, really. And I know we could dive a whole nother track into that field as well. But how can people, I see you've got a free masterclass training on your website to kind of learn, dive a bit deeper into the flow and the consciousness, so that people can sign up onto that and then reach out through your Facebook. That's probably the best way to follow you.
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, our website. Like you said, we have a free masterclass. We also did a more catered to the times free masterclass that I can send people the link to, which gives some powerful tools to regulate your nervous system and to deal with fear and process these difficult emotions. So yeah, just reach out on social media, come to the website and say hello. And really, it's just a time that we all need to be gentle with ourselves, and whatever we're experiencing, being okay with that and just allowing what's there to be there and accept it, and then to ultimately transmute it and change it. But first, really just being okay with, you know, my kids are coming in on my calls, and, you know, there's background noise and there's things beyond my control, and just really being gentle with ourselves.
And what are you most excited about right now?
Like right now, probably going out for a walk. You know, I'm not used to being on the computer quite so much, so all of this screen time has been difficult for me. So just getting out, getting my feet on the earth and grounding, and literally smelling the flowers around the neighborhood. I can't go on the trails anymore, so just getting creative with finding as much nature and grounding in that as possible.
Well, now that you live in the best air quality in the world in LA, can't wait to read the like air meter on that. But and without traffic on your highways, I'm like, LA is a nice place to be right now.
It is, you know, it's kind of interesting because the places that you'd want to go, like the beach, are closed. So it's like there's no traffic, but there's nowhere to go either. So it's kind of ironic. Actually, I'm super excited because I've had a bike for maybe 5 years now. I bought it for myself for my birthday, but then I had surgery the next day. And so I just didn't end up riding it like ever. And I totally forgot I had it because I usually just go to the gym here. Plus LA traffic, riding a bike just terrifies me. And so the tires were flat, but I ordered a bike pump and it came yesterday. So I'm going to fill the tires and start cruising around the somewhat empty streets here. So I'm excited about that.
Jackie's going to be in flow on her bike because there's no cars around, and yeah, man, we'll go out and embrace that time in nature. And again, just thanks for your time today and your friendship and just everything that you're doing. And can't wait to point a few people your way to dive a bit deeper into this flow consciousness stuff. So thanks again.
I so appreciate it, and I so appreciate you and the magic that you bring, and how you're bringing people together even in these Zoom times, and you know, being online, you're still creating community. So I am so grateful for you.
Cool. Ciao, ciao. Well, that was all.